Hello, gentlemen. Today I'm going to talk about cover 2 man and how to attack it. So this is going to be one of the most important topics that I've posted so far, and that's because a lot of people are struggling to move the ball against this coverage. I know there's some of you who might be watching who's like, cover 2 man, that's easy to beat, just put zigs on the field. I promise it is not that simple. If you're playing somebody good who is messing with their shading, maybe even doing individual shading on each receiver, switch sticking between the safeties, putting a spy on the field so you can't scramble with your quarterback, it starts to make life very difficult, and moving the ball definitely isn't easy. So here's how I'm going to break this down. I'm going to do strengths and weaknesses of cover 2 man. I'm going to talk about routes that I like versus cover 2 man and man coverage in general. I hope you guys understand shading. And then I'll also just show you multiple ways that you can just really take advantage of misalignment issues and tricks you can use to get your wide receivers open. So use the timestamps if you guys want to jump around. Let's get into it. So let's start this off by talking about the strengths of cover 2 man and what makes this coverage so good. So the first thing is the fact that we are playing press man coverage, shaded underneath and inside by default. Now the inside part is a little bit less important because you can shade outside, but the important aspect to focus on is that you're pressed and you're shaded underneath. That is going to take away a ton of routes. And that's because it gets the best press animations and it just completely smothers some routes. And the reason that they can play shaded underneath press man is because they have safety help over the top. So when you call cover 2 man, the default shading when you call the play is shade underneath, shade inside. That's very important to know, both for using this defense and attacking it. Another great thing about this coverage is it's very hard to get beat over the top because we have man-to-man across the board, just smothering routes, and we have safety help over the top. And some people are going to put an additional deep blue on the field. So they might do something like this, where they're playing a form of 3-man under or cover 3 man, whatever you want to call it. And at this point, it's just really hard to get over the top and get chunk gains. You're going to have to move the ball methodically. And then the last thing I'll say that's really good about this is it's a really easy switch stick coverage because you can just switch between these deep zones very easily and then let the man-to-man do its thing underneath. Now let's talk about some of the weaknesses that cover 2 man has. So first and foremost, cover 2 man is not very good run defense. So we're in dollar, and dollar is good run defense, but inherently cover 2 man isn't because the safeties aren't in run fits. They're in deep halves. They're not in run support. So it's pretty much up to this front here to stop the run. You might like crash down or something. That's how people try to protect themselves against the run. But sometimes it just doesn't work. It depends on what the run is. But that is one of the biggest weaknesses of cover 2 man. Watch what happens when I go to instant replay. The safeties are going to backpedal because they are in deep halves. They have to respect that first. And then they'll come up and support. But they're going to be late to the party. The next two weaknesses kind of go hand in hand, and the first one is the fact that you cannot disguise your coverage. Like there's no being sneaky about it. If you're calling cover 2 man, it's going to look something like this where you have everybody manned up. So like this is a trip set. There's a cornerback on every single receiver on the left playing press with shade inside. So there's really no disguise to this. And people who spam cover 2 man don't care because it's that good. So that's a weakness in my opinion. Like we know they're in cover 2 man. We know they're probably not blitzing us. And then the next one that kind of goes with it is it's very easy to tell what kind of shading they're in based on how the cornerbacks are aligned. And we're going to talk about that later on in the video. And then the final weakness is that it's kind of easy to scramble on it with your quarterback if they don't have a spy. So some people will put a spy on the field. That makes it so you can't scramble. But if they don't have one, it's very easy to get yardage. So now that you guys kind of understand how cover 2 man works and why it's good, we can talk about routes that are really good against it. So I'm going to go through routes. I'm going to try to do it as quickly as possible so this video doesn't end up 30 minutes. But what I'm going to do is start off by talking about cheat motion. So cheat motion is one of the best ways to attack cover 2 man because what it does is it makes it so man coverage or these press man defenders cannot get hands on that receiver that's in cheat motion. And that's taking away one of the things that makes cover 2 man so good, taking away the press animation. So like right here, there's the cheat motion. They can't press us. There's our touchdown. So we're going to talk about route combos a little bit later, but I just want to show you all of the different routes that really attack man coverage pretty effectively. So I just decided to save you guys some time. I'm just going to go through these routes one by one, and you can look for these routes in your playbook. These are routes that are going to be pretty decent versus man. You know, they won't separate 100% of the time, but they're good routes to build around. Some of them are available in standard hot routes. Some of them aren't, but these are routes that you definitely want to have on the field. And then here's a full list of all of the routes that I like versus man coverage. You guys can pause the video and take a screenshot if that's going to be helpful for you. And then let me know in the comment section if you guys like a certain route that I left off the list. I'm definitely curious if I forgot anything. So before we get into route combos that I like to really attack cover 2 man, I do want to do a deeper dive into shading and understanding how it works, as well as the coverage tells. So one more time, cover 2 man is a shade underneath, shade inside defense by default. So if you look at these cornerbacks on the trip side, they're all aligned to the inside shoulder of these receivers because they're taking away the inside leverage. So anytime you see this, like look at your player model, and if they're playing inside leverage, you typically do not want to have inside breaking routes because the chances of them getting bagged are higher. So you maybe want to put like this guy on a corner route, maybe put this guy on a speed out. You can leave some inside breaking routes against inside shade, but don't expect it to get open. So let's go ahead and check this out. So we get a release to the outside, and that's how we win. Now pay attention to how these cornerbacks look when I shade outside. So I'm going to hit Y and then right stick to the right for outside. And this cornerback in the middle jumped to the outside shoulder of this receiver. This guy didn't move. He's still shaded inside. And that's because certain formations are going to dictate how the cornerback can shade. And that's just the way the game is programmed. So this guy is still shaded inside, but then we have this guy shaded out and this guy shaded out. So watch what happens if we run the same route combo where we have the speed out and the corner route. You're going to see that the corner route runs differently. He releases to the inside. Now he doesn't gain any separation. I mean, he somehow almost catches that, but you definitely don't want to throw that. Now there's a couple more things that I need to mention. First, if you look at the tight end, you're going to see that he is shaded outside by default, and that is just what the formation does to cover 2 man. It is forcing an outside default shade. So you're more likely to separate on any kind of in-breaking route. So a drag, an in route, a slant, a post. Those are the routes that you want to run from this tight end. And then the last thing I want to mention with shading is that you do not have to shade your entire defense. You can individually shade players. So if you're playing somebody who's really good, what they might do is they might keep the inside shade, but let's say you've been running that middle receiver on this corner route like this. Well, all they have to do is hit Y, A, Y again, and then left stick or right stick to the right. That's going to make that cornerback jump outside, but we're now maintaining the inside shade on the other two receivers. So this is how you can create more of a customized defense to kind of take away certain routes that your opponent's using. Okay, now for the fun part, which is putting it all together and putting routes on the field that are going to effectively attack cover 2 man and hopefully get your opponent out of this annoying coverage. So I'm going to do this out of the Miami Dolphins playbook. If you guys want a full breakdown of this, go to acemadden.com, become a member. We have a ton of content on the Miami Dolphins playbook. You will not have a problem moving the ball. So let's start with Split Close Pro. And we're going to use PA Cheat Wrap Cross because it does have a cheat motion. And let's go ahead and run this against cover 2 man. So let's just go ahead and run default cover 2 man. And the first route combo is going to be slant your tight end. And then we are going to in route your left side running back in this case. And that's pretty much it. So we want to hit the cheat motion. And it's going to be very easy to hit him. And this kind of thing can get your opponent out of this coverage single-handedly. As for the rest of the play, look at the shading that the cornerback is giving us on the deep crosser, which is on the left. He is shaded outside by default, which is good for us because we're breaking inside. And then we have the guy who's manned up to the tight end. That is by default on the outside shoulder of the tight end. That doesn't mean you're always going to win. It just means you have a better chance to separate. So let's have a look again. Let's look at the crosser now. So we actually separate here. So if the user is focused on the cheat motion, we can just hit the crosser. And then sometimes the slant is going to separate too. And just for an alternative setup, you don't have to slant the tight end. Sometimes I'll put them on a corner route because I actually do like tight end corner routes against cover 2 man and man coverage in general, because they are pretty effective at separating, especially if you have a good tight end. So you can definitely mix that up. Next, we have cheat tight end angle out of normal Y off close. So we're utilizing cheat motion again. And I absolutely love this play against man coverage. Spy this guy. And the route combo that I like against cover 2 man is wheel the running back if you have access to that route. If you don't, you can honestly put them on whatever. Maybe put them on like a table. You don't want to block him because that's just going to help their coverage. You're going to post B in this case. Stem him up once. So he looks like that. You're going to corner route Y. Speed out your outside receiver, which is X. And then stem him up with the D-pad once. So Y, X, LB or L1, and then D-pad up once. And this is what your final play art is going to look like. I'm going to put the wheel on the field because it is better. Let's have a look. You're going to see what happens is this motion angle is going to completely torch man coverage. It does not matter what kind of man coverage they're in. He is going to absolutely destroy his defender. So I'll actually man this guy up. We'll change the man coverage defender just to show you. That is going to be consistent. This is a route that needs to be usered. So again, boom, there's a separation. Now let's talk about the rest of the play. So we have a speed out that I love versus man coverage, especially shaded inside man coverage. We have a corner route, which is running away from the leverage. We have a post that is running inside, away from his outside shade. So let's go ahead and throw each of these once. We're going to start with the post. There's the post. If they don't have a middle third, they're cooked. Let's throw the corner out now. It does take a second to set this play up, but it's honestly worth it. So let's check the corner route now. So in this case, he doesn't get a ton of separation, but honestly, he separates enough for me to warrant putting it on the field. Let's throw the speed out. There's the speed out running away from the inside shade. And overall, this play is very effective at attacking this coverage. Next, we have PA cheat divide wheels out of gun bunch. Now this play is going to be really good against cover 2 man because we have a cheat motion and a tight end wheel. So let's have a look at the cheat motion first. And the setup for this play is going to be corner route your slot receiver, which is RB, and then triple option your running back. And you want to have a look at your cheat motion first so he doesn't get pressed. So that guy actually runs into somebody, and easiest completion of our lives. So he runs into his defensive lineman, gets picked by his own guy, and there's our completion. Now let's have a look at the tight end wheel. So he won't get open 100% of the time, but oftentimes what happens is he gets bagged while he's running to the flats. And then when he breaks upfield, that is when he separates. So kind of like this. So we have 3 routes that do a really good job against man coverage. We have the cheat motion, we have the wheel, and depending on their shading, we might have the corner route as well. So like right there, we have the cheat motion wide open again. And the post can win as well. I'll actually show you that post is throwable. You're going to have to wait a little bit longer to hit him. So corner route's open. And then there's the post. And then lastly, I want to talk about gun wing slot offset because we have cheat motion and a form of compression. So this formation is actually very interesting because it forces a specific type of shading. And you might have a formation in your playbook that does something similar. So let's go ahead and start with PA cheat dagger. So cover 2 man versus PA cheat dagger. And you're going to see that we have this wide receiver right here to the inside. So we're basically in a compressed set. And compression is very, very good against cover 2 man. Because look what happens. Across the board, everybody is shaded outside. So that means we can run things across the middle. We can run mesh concepts. We can run posts. There's not much they can do about it. So we can really take advantage. So let's go ahead and drag B in this case. We'll slant A. We'll post Y. And if you can, wheel your running back. So here's the setup. We have 3 routes breaking in. And something is going to get open. So we had B open. We have this post open. And there's just nothing they can really do about it because the formation is forcing them to shade outside. Do it again. There's the slant, wide open. I'll keep running it just to show you. Typically, you'll have 2 routes open. There's A again. The post was also open. If Juju wasn't so slow, he probably would be open too. One more time. There's the post. Now here's where lab work comes in. This is something that I found out when I was testing this formation. Notice what happens when I run the cheat motion. So look at the cornerback that's on X. Look what he does. He now goes to the inside shoulder of that receiver. And that's really good to know because when you run the cheat motion, he's going to play inside shade. So that means we should run something that breaks to the outside on that receiver. So we can run a concept like this. Let's actually go ahead and press this guy first. We can run like a zig on X and then maybe do a streak on A, slant on Y, corner route from the running back. So now what this is going to do, force that guy to play inside shade, but now we're breaking out with this receiver and gaining separation that way. Let's do it again. And it's all because we know the cheat motion is doing that. There's a zig, there's a slant, and in some cases that cheat motion dig will win. Even though he's going against inside shade, he's not getting pressed because of the cheat motion. So he can win late as well. So I'll try to show that. Let's try to hit the dig. It's going to take a second. So he wins kind of late, but it's just because he's slow. If he was faster, he would definitely get some separation. And then we do have PA cheat comeback, which will work in tandem with PA cheat dagger. So let's go ahead and go over that one. The first setup for this one is going to be drag B, slant A, corner route Y, and then flat your running back. So what we're looking for here is B, A, well actually you can really hit anything but the running back, I would say, versus cover 2 man. But your post is going to split the safeties. If they do not have a middle third and they're just playing a standard cover 2 man, that post is going to be a touchdown because he's breaking to the inside and they're playing outside shade on him because we're not using that cheat motion. He's really not even getting pressed either. And that corner route's holding the deep half on the right. So this is the easiest touchdown against cover 2 man without glitching. There's a very easy way to score against cover 2 man if you're willing to glitch, but that's on the site. That's under the tips section if you guys want it. Okay, let's look at the other routes. There's a slant. The drag is not separating for some reason. Juju is just a little slow. Let's see if he can finally get open. There we go. He's open now. And the great thing about these route combos is they're going to be good versus zone too. So if they somehow mix things in, you're not really at risk of getting bagged. And then we do have a cheat motion set up, and that's just going to be drag A and then corner route your running back. If you don't have access to a corner route, you can use, I don't know, I'd probably say a flat. You just want to send him out because if you block him, that just gives him an extra guy in coverage. So I'll just go ahead and leave him on the flat. But comebacks are really good against man coverage, especially if they're not getting pressed. So comebacks versus cover 2 man when they are getting pressed kind of suck. But this one, since he's not getting touched, is pretty good. So let's try to throw him one more time. On his break. Very easy completion, and that is likely not going to get usered. Now do keep in mind when you cheat motion, that is going to make it so your post is going to get bagged. So he's shaded inside now. You are going to have this in route from your tight end typically. And sometimes you'll have the drag as well, because both of those tight ends are shaded out. And then running back corner routes, I haven't thrown them all video, but they're typically pretty good too. I found them to be pretty reliable at separating. The last thing I want to talk about is the run defense out of cover 2 man. So I mentioned it early in the video that one of the weaknesses of cover 2 man is that the deep half safeties are not in run fits. So you can take advantage of that with runs. I personally don't know all of the runs in the game that just completely bust it, but I will say cheat inside zone is good versus it. And you should check in your playbook for runs that are going to be good versus this. But again, typically the safeties aren't going to be helping. So you only have to block up the guys in the front. So cheat inside zone works really well because we can get to the second level pretty easily. And this cheat motion helps. And this guy runs the slot cornerback off. So these two guys are cleared out. This left guard gets up to the next level. And it's just easy to run at the safeties who aren't in run fits. So I'll do it again. Let me actually get off this safety. Just to show. I'll actually crash down to. Should still be good. Okay, so crash down definitely actually improves the run defense. But, you know, just test a bunch of runs in your playbook. You can test like pulling guards. That might be even better. So we'll do like a one trap against cover 2 man. Let's buy this guy. And this might be even better. So just like that, we get to the next level and run at those safeties. So those are the ways that I like to attack cover 2 man. So I'm sorry if this video was long. I was trying to be in depth, but I honestly left a lot out. I might even do a follow-up video at some point. But hopefully this helps you guys out when you face people who are spamming cover 2 man, because I know how frustrating it is when you're playing somebody who is just pressing your receivers into the dirt and you feel like you have nothing that's getting open. So hopefully this helps you guys out. If you guys need route combos that are going to separate versus cover 2 man and just help you move the ball in general, go to acemadden.com, become a member. We have a ton on the Miami Dolphins playbook. You shouldn't have any issues moving the ball. And if you guys want me to do a follow-up video, just let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.